Let's be honest, football games today are missing a lot. There's so much that goes into sports games that we don't have, but there's a football game coming out that could change everything. And to be honest, when another football game is announced, I'm always skeptical. They promise big features that fans have always wanted, gameplay that delivers a shake-up to football gaming, and then so much more. And almost always, they fail to deliver even half of what they promise. But this time, I think there's a football game that has the potential to change everything. This game is promising that the strength of your relationships with your players is going to matter, helping no two seasons feel the same. You break a promise with your players, it could be a catastrophic outcome for your coaching career. Weather in your actual games, well, the gameplay will alter based on the weather you're playing in, which is something I think we always have wanted. And then budgets and ticket prices, will prepare to manage them and spend your money wisely. That's what I'm talking about. This is a game that 95% of you haven't even been paying attention to, that a small team has been developing in the shadows. The gameplay footage is what caught my attention first, but when I did my research on their dynasty mode, I was kinda shook. The game I'm talking about and the footage you've been seeing is from Varsity High School football. I know what you're thinking. High school football? Trust me, the features you're going to see and hear in this video, like what I alluded to earlier, will satisfy even the most hardcore of Dynasty fans. Keep in mind that everything you're seeing in this video is a work in progress. Plenty of this can and probably will change before the game releases, but more on the release date a little bit later. And did you know that 73% of people who watch my videos recently aren't even subscribed? I'm on the road to 300,000 subscribers. If you're enjoying this content and other content like it, I'd love to have your sub. The best part? It's free. In every single Dynasty mode that we play, there's not enough of a focus on the personalities and how those change the dynamic of a team. If you've ever played high school sports, especially football, you know all about the off-the-field dynamics that are just as important as what you do on the field. In Varsity High School football, they have a scenario system that'll introduce managing players, including divas, overbearing parents, which I feel like is a big part of high school sports, and even unethical boosters. As a coach for your high school, you'll be able to agree, disagree, or even influence those people to try and stop the situation from having a much larger impact on your team. Like most dynasties, though, that you've played, you're going to start by creating your coach and choose whether they're a head coach or just a coordinator. And once you've wrapped creating your coach, you'll see a number of open jobs from the thousands of high schools in the country. The devs have said that as long as an area has 1,000 people or more in that town should be included in the game. They went on to mention that you could start at a super rural school that may only be able to field a total of 20 players in the team. Your field, abysmal. Your seating, probably a measly set of bleachers. You'd struggle to have community support to help drive your ticket sales, and this means that upgrading your field, the equipment, hiring better coordinators, that would be kind of a long journey. Regardless of where you choose to start your journey, though, the development team uses real-world data around the town's demographics, their weather, their income, and more. You've got to keep in mind, though, that these will not be real teams or mascots, because they would obviously need a license to do that, and with thousands of teams in the game, you can imagine how costly that would be. They have mentioned that there's a good bit of customization in the game, and this would allow you to customize your school and surrounding schools to your liking. So whether you haven't been in high school for a little bit or a long time, you can finally avenge that loss that you hated in high school football. After you've chosen a team, though, you'll receive a list of goals that vary based on the school you chose and the location. The goals you receive will ultimately decide how you're performing your job and whether you stay around long term, receive other offers, or end up getting fired and looking for a gig elsewhere. You could find yourself at a major Catholic academy that gives you a yearly budget of $50K to spend, while a small school in the middle of nowhere might only give you $10,000 to spend. You could also spend the majority of your cash on your staff, but then you've put yourself in a tough position for all the other elements of your program that they actually need. And if you think dealing with a budget is stressful, just imagine having an angry parent in your inbox telling you their kid is a star, he should be playing more, he could be leading this team to a championship. That's just the life of a head coach in high school, though. And speaking of stress, do you want less stress in your sports life? Get a free pick with Underdog when you use code GGB. I play daily fantasy sports every week on Underdog, and if you use code GGB when you sign up, they'll give you a free pick plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That means that your chance at winning just got even better, and here's one of mine that I recently won with CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, and Devonta Smith. It hit pretty well for me. All you've got to do is pick higher or lower on a few players for a game of your choice across any sport that you watch. You can even mix and match sports, and if you're right, you've got some cash coming your way. You can even use a flex pick so that if you get one wrong, you'll still win. Click the link in the description and use code GGB so that you'll get a few free picks this week, like Victor Wembanyama of the Spurs or Bijan Robinson of the Falcons, to make winning even easier on Underdog. Playing a season is only half the battle in varsity high school football, because the off season is where champions are truly made. In the game, you're going to find that the off-season is broken down into different seasons, so winter, spring, and summer. As you enter each phase of the off-season, you'll be presented with different tasks that you'll need to complete. One of those tasks will be reaching out to boosters to try and raise additional money for your program. You might find that some boosters contribute every year and they're willing to shell out a nice chunk of change as long as you continue to win some games, but others, you might be lucky to get 25 or 50 bucks out of them. Before you pitch them on the amount you'd like for them to contribute, you'll have a meter that'll help you gauge their estimated interest, but be careful of asking for too much because they could just say, nah, I'm good. And while you can ask boosters for things, they can also come to you asking for something in return for their contribution. A booster could offer you a nice chunk of money, but in return, they want you to start their son. You could have a much better player at that position, but your field needs to be fixed to help avoid some injuries. The booster's son could be a tight end of your team, but he really wants him to play quarterback. But maybe he's garbage at quarterback. And you playing that kid at quarterback is the difference between you getting a couple extra thousand or maybe nothing at all. This becomes a massive decision that you've got to decide what matters more to you. Starting a player that's going to make it tough to win games and getting some extra money to help stop injuries, or playing a better player at that position, but maybe dealing with more injuries across the board. You also have the opportunity to run training camps with your players during the offseason too. So while you love football and you're focusing your time on being a football coach, your players are in high school and they might explore other sports. Your star QB might want to try tennis or baseball or play basketball, which means that you could be without your top player during these camps. Even worse, a player you're counting on for the upcoming season could be playing baseball and actually get hurt playing that sport and miss the entire football season. This helps you realize how improving your facilities matters a ton, because they'll aid you in improving player recovery, injury resistance, even when they play other different sports, their skills, their stamina, and so much more. A successful offseason only matters if you're able to turn it into success on the field though, and each week you'll be tasked with a variety of options that can also impact your budget. Playing a team that you know you can steamroll, well, it's probably not worth taking the resources to scout that opponent, but the same might not be the case for plenty of other teams. You'll have the ability to run game day promotions to attempt to drive more ticket sales for your game, which in turn can generate more hype for your team and hopefully more funds overall to help you upgrade your coaching staff, your facilities, and more. The development team has stated that they plan to include school and state records in the game, but I'd imagine these will be kind of randomly generated and not based on each individual locale. And with each team not being licensed, like I mentioned before, you'll be able to customize your team fully to your liking as well as the surrounding schools. So if you're still bitter about that loss from 10 to 20 years ago, you can get your revenge. It's just gonna be virtually. You'll be able to customize jerseys, fields, numbers, names, bleachers, press box, scoreboard, team colors, and more within your squad. Some of these things you're able to update right from the jump. Think jerseys, numbers, and names, while others will be a part of the upgrade system. So think your press box, bleachers, and scoreboard, and other things. Each game will have an expanded box score that allows you to view team stat comparisons, individual player stats, and a detailed play-by-play breakdown of every play, not just the scoring plays. And after the game, you'll be able to see weekly Player of the Week awards for offense and defense at both the district and regional level. Something I love though is that the weekly awards are also going to be added to individual player profiles, so you can easily see a specific player if they earned an award versus scrolling the menu week by week. The development team has also worked a lot on expanding their injury system to be more in depth. You might see things like simple bruises and cramps that take players out for a small portion or a couple of plays, to more serious things like brain injuries and broken bone. Having a serious injury at a high school where you're only fielding 20 to 25 players in your roster becomes a massive issue, because that player could be playing both sides of the ball for you. And again, keep in mind that while they could get hurt playing football, they could also run the risk of getting hurt playing another sport, and that could impact a portion or your entire season. As your season progresses, you'll be able to see power rankings across your district and region. The development team is also hoping to implement national rankings as well, but for now they've kind of committed to just district and regional. And it's not high school football without the playoffs. The playoffs, that's where things get really interesting. When you start your dynasty, you're kind of able to set playoff seeding size. If you select a school in a small state but only want to have a playoff size of 8 teams, only the teams that are in first place for each division will play each other for the championship. They currently have playoff sizes that are set to be the following, but keep in mind these could change throughout development. But we first need to talk about state size info. So small would be 1A to 5A classes, 4 regions each, and 8 districts each, which gives you about 50 to 80 teams per classification. Medium would be 1A to 6A classes, 4 regions each, 16 districts each, and then 100 to 150 teams per classification. And then large would be 1A to 6A classes, 4 regions each, 32 districts each, and then 200 to 300 teams per classification. And then when you compare the playoff sizes for each of those classifications, here's what you have. Small would be a 16-team playoff with first and second place teams from each district. Medium would be a 32-team playoff with first and second place teams from each district. And then large would be a 64-team playoff with first and second place teams from each district. You've no doubt seen a lot of the gameplay snippets and looks at the UI from within the game in this video. The dynasty mode is shaping up to be great, and while there's plenty more that I'd love to see them add to it, it really all boils down to how good the gameplay is and how just well done the dynasty mode is. It's worth noting the developers of this game are a small team, but they do have some level of connection with Maximum Football. There's an important distinction to make here, though, regarding their involvement. This is straight from the developer, Josh, regarding their involvement with Maximum Football. Josh from Pyramid Lake Games says, "We worked on the marketing in the dynasty mode of Maximum Football in 2019 and 2020 before selling the rights to the current developer. We had creative differences on the direction things should go, so we started building Varsity with the freedom to see out our vision for what a simulation football game should be. Now Spear and Pyramid Lake have total autonomy in hiring, direction, features, and quality." To me, this is fantastic news because while I can appreciate what Maximum Football is trying to build, especially their customization, I haven't loved the way they've approached a few things specifically, especially on the gameplay level. I'm someone who played a lot of college football revamped, as most of you know, and I was also extremely hyped to see the Bleeding Red 21 involved in the development of Varsity High School football. I've used his mods on both CFB Revamped and Madden, especially Madden 24, and I feel excited about what he's going to be able to help do with this game. The biggest question I'm sure we're going to see in the comments is you're wondering when the game is going to be released. And the bad news that I have for you is that we really don't know. The developers have stated that they truly want to get this game right and they're focused on delivering a great game, so there's currently not a release date. But if I were to guess, I'd assume that we wouldn't see this game until sometime in late 2025 or more than likely 2026. Whenever there's big news or an update on Varsity High School football or anything like college football or Madden, just know that I'll have you covered here, so be sure to subscribe to stay up to date. Be safe, be smart, tell somebody you love them. Catch you guys on the next one.